Hey everyone and welcome to this channel. Hey everyone and welcome. Let's talk about strength training today. Just as a quick sort of preface or disclaimer, I should let you guys know that as a professional, I do work as a personal trainer and a powerlifting sort of coach. So I think more specifically, I would say I work with strength and rehab as opposed to more fat loss stuff. So that's something that you should know right from the get-go. So the sort of advice I give you might be a little bit different from the more sort of generic bikini body transformation fat loss trainer. But so yeah, just know that, and like, my tips are obviously going to come from a more strength-based point of view. Personally, I have competed in powerlifting, and over the last 2 years, I got into strongman. Most of my clients are powerlifters or some level of athletes, whether it be at a national level or a state level, and then I've had a few international athletes train with me as well. So that's kind of just who I am. My training method is definitely the ineffable method, and I do believe that strength is something that's really great, that is very distinct and unique and cannot be explained in words to be able to be a comparable element. I don't think that my strength should be compared to your strength. I think at the end of the day, we all have to remember that we carry our own level and our own kind of strength, and that helps us work through our days, work through our own personal, emotional, mental, and physical struggles. So whatever has brought you to this video, I want to first and foremost thank you for being here. I apologize for a long intro, but this is probably like the first of a few videos that I'm making, so I will try and explain who I am a little bit more. But yeah, so I wanted to talk to you guys about how to get started in the gym, especially if your goal is to do strength training. So let's explain one thing first, which is what exactly is strength training. And let's say you want to lift weights. You could be a guy or a girl watching this video. I'm not really trying to speak to one specific gender or the other, but because I am a woman and most of my clients are female, I might sort of speak more to the female viewer here and there, but you know what? Overall, I want this to be applicable to anyone who's watching this video. So strength training is the training that you do where your ultimate goal is to become stronger. So there isn't really a sort of specific athlete that I think doesn't train for strength. At the end of the day, everyone is working off some form of strength, and they're always trying to become relatively stronger, compared to their last training program, their last competition. Maybe it was a movement thing. It could have been anything. And because they're attempting to become stronger with every training cycle, they're essentially strength training in their own way. So for you, strength training could just be that you have a desk job, you don't move around a lot, or you have a back injury or a disc issue, or you have hip pain and you want to get into the gym, but you don't really want to do like high intensity training. You just want to become stronger, you want to move more comfortably, and that's okay. Well, on the other hand, you could be someone who's been watching a lot of the lifters on Instagram or whatever, and you really want to get into powerlifting. That in itself also is strength training. So however it is you want to start, just know that if ultimately your goal is to become stronger, you are following some form of protocol which encompasses the beautiful world of strength training. I think strength training is really, really important, and I think everyone should have some element of strength in their training program. But again, each to their own. Some people just want to be skinny and do a lot of cardio, and that's I don't know much about that, so I can't really say anything about it. So that's what strength training is. How should you get started? What program should you use, etc., etc.? I feel like that's a very, very broad question, but one thing I can tell you is that, again, it's a very relative term strength training. So how you should train really depends. Now, when I say it depends on your body type, it depends on your mobility, it depends on your pre-existing injuries, it depends on your lifestyle, it depends on how much time you have every week, the sort of equipment you have access to, how old you are, if you were an athlete before or you are a new athlete now. So all these things are very crucial to determining the sort of training you should do. The first thing that you should figure out before you start any kind of training is that, do you have any injuries in the body? Ones that you might be aware of. And I think it's really important that you learn to understand your body really well. For example, when you sit at the desk for a really long time, when you get up, do you find your hand just gently kind of goes to the lower back and you do the even for a second? That means there's something going on there. Okay, when you go up and down the stairs, do your knees click? Do you find you do this a lot? There's somewhere where the tension in your body is going, and that could potentially be a breeding ground for an injury, or there could be something just kind of sitting there waiting to come out. A very important line that I just remember saying to myself over and over after my injury, which was about a little over half a decade ago, was that you are only as strong as your weakest link. So no matter how strong you want to push yourself in a program that you found on the internet, just understand you can only go so far if you have an injury. If you have a spinal injury, a disc problem, if you have back pain, if you have issues in your shoulder, your rotator cuff, your hip socket, anything like that will not only limit how strong you can get, but it will also be very detrimental to the intensity or the extent of injury that you might sustain in the process, whether it be short-term or long-term. Now, know that injuries don't happen right away all the time. Some injuries just sit there and stay in the body, and as they grow and grow, at some point the body snaps and breaks, and that's where things really get bad and shit can hit the fan. So I think that's really important that you understand your body a little bit, or you do a few movement tests and see if you feel discomfort, pain, or stiffness anywhere, and that should be your starting point for training. So how should you train that body part? Ideally, you should spend a good, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks preparing the body. So what that would mean is, A, you are stretching the parts that feel tight. B, you are strengthening the body parts that feel weak. And C, you are building a mobility pattern or muscle memory to understand the movements that you will be doing in the actual strength training program, where you will obviously be wanting to lift heavier, but take, I would say, a good 4 to 6 weeks to really understand the fundamentals of the movement, to really understand and familiarize yourself with your body, and that is very important. So the way that I would say structuring a strength training program or starting a strength training program, again, it could be coming from my personal and professional experience, would be to start your training off on more of a deload cycle. So a deload cycle in powerlifting as well as strongman can run for 4 to 6 weeks. Some people only do it for 2 weeks, but these are obviously the more experienced athletes who just want to go. So for the first 4 to 6 weeks, what you're doing is you're letting your body sort of rest a little bit. In your case, you're doing the opposite, where you're kind of starting to reintroduce movements into the body, understand breathing method, core activation, how to squat properly, lift properly, understand how to move efficiently, get your body stronger, and then slowly progressively start increasing the weight until you are sort of getting a little bit more confident, but don't push yourself too hard. The other thing I will say is that if there is a program you want to do, there are some really good strength training programs out there. Again, if you guys want more information, leave the questions down below, and what I'll do is I'll start creating a series of videos sort of working in a chronological order and potentially helping guide you guys in the right direction. But if you do decide to start a strength training program, you don't know how to figure out what weight you should lift, what your max is, etc., etc., I will say your first program should just be a tester. So your first 4 to 6 week or 12-week program that you do, start it at a very light and comfortable weight, because the first few weeks of any strength training program are always really easy and comfortable, and then towards the end they do get a little bit more aggressive, and that can be extremely exhausting and taxing on the central nervous system. And once your central nervous system is just like, no more, I can't take it, your whole body will shut down. Any injuries that are sitting there will really come to the surface. You might notice you get sick, you will feel weak, you won't have as much energy, and all these things are really not worth the cost of trying to lift heavy right away. At the end of the day, remember that this is seriously the only body you have, so hurting it and injuring it is just not worth, you know, trying to show someone else that you can lift heavier in the gym. But again, we're talking more of a, you know, a very basic strength training program, most of which I think are premised around squatting, benching, doing some form of overhead press, deadlifting, and then maybe like pull-ups and push-ups. But I find a lot of them have a lot of barbell movements. So if you don't feel comfortable doing a barbell program, you can still take a strength training program and just use free weights with it. And I think free weights are probably the best way to train. I very rarely put my clients on any kind of machines unless those machines are an extension of another movement, to help them understand it, or maybe as a small accessory movement. But the main exercise should never be done on a machine, because your body is not moving freely as it should, and you won't really understand the movements very well. So that's kind of like really the basic elements, but I know you guys will have a lot of follow-up questions if anyone does watch this video. But leave all your questions down below. I'm gonna think of this more as like a conversation starter, and then accordingly I'm happy to post 2-3 videos in a week if I have to maybe like get more answers to you a little bit quicker. That is never a problem. I thank you so much for tuning in to this sort of newly awoken channel, and please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and also please, for my sake, don't forget to subscribe. It also makes me feel a little bit better. So yeah, don't forget to think strong always, and until next time, take care.